Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. So we have reached the grand final of our Traitor Legion War, and we have seen plenty of upsets along the way. So will we have more in the results of the semi-final? Well, let's waste no time in taking a look. First up we had the World Eaters versus the Thousand Suns. The World Eaters having conquered the Night Lords previously, and the Thousand Suns having defeated the Emperor's children. And well, this one was a fairly one-sided affair, with Magnus and the Thousand Suns using their psychic powers to devastating effect, managing to keep the Berserker horde at bay, winning by a substantial over 60% of the vote. There will be no skulls for Khorne's throne today, as Magnus and his sons move on to the final. But next up we had the Iron Warriors taking on the Death Guard in the rematch of the War of Rust and Ruin. And this one was a much closer affair, as well you might expect in a conflict between these two legions. On the Instagram poll, Perturabo and his Iron Warriors just edged their measure of revenge by 23 votes. Just 23 votes in it. So it really was all to play for when I checked the straw poll. And well, here, there was a clear winner, with 58% of the voting. Drumroll please. Perturabo and the Iron Warriors got their measure of revenge and defeated Mortarion and the Death Guard. And I'll be honest, I was not expecting that. Seeing the Iron Warriors so narrowly defeat the Alpha Legion earlier on in the tournament, and having lost to the Death Guard in the first War of Rust and Ruin, I thought this was going to be a landslide in favour of Mortarion and the Death Guard, who I can now reveal were my pick to win the tournament. Having the easier side of the draw and being the most structured and held together legion, I thought I'd be seeing a Death Guard Black Legion final when the original draw turned out. But boy was I wrong. But you know, I'm actually not disappointed, because Perturabo getting the win here to me does make a lot of sense, at least in a logical manner, because he is a strategic genius, and I just don't think he would be defeated twice in a row by Mortarion. The Death Guard could be described as many things, but surprising is not one. They just don't change their tactics. Perturabo just wouldn't fall to the same defeat twice. And I think that's something that's clearly represented by him getting the win here. You guys just don't think that either. And despite me thinking the Death Guard may well be the strongest legion overall, I simply can't complain about this defeat. So we have our grand final, one I never expected to see, as the Thousand Suns take on the Iron Warriors. But this is actually a great climax in the poetic sense of the lore, for Perturabo and Magnus were truly once the closest of brothers, Magnus perhaps being Perturabo's only true friend. It's a relationship I think I'm definitely going to have to cover if we do a Magnus the Red Primarch week. I'm still very torn between Mortarion or Magnus for the next Primarch special, but I will reveal which one we are going with next week, and the Primarch week will follow the week after. However, for today, the one-time friends will face each other once more. So the Thousand Suns, they've had a fairly comprehensive road to the final, firstly defeating the Emperor's children, and then the World Eaters. But the Iron Warriors now represent quite a different challenge. Whereas the previous two opponents they faced were much more offensive based, Perturabo and his Iron Warriors can adapt to any situation. If Magnus and his sons wish to sit back and use their powers here, the Iron Warriors will be only too happy to oblige. In a battle of sheer firepower, there's only one winner here. And it's not the Thousand Sons, even with their sorcery. I think this time the Thousand Sons would most definitely have to come up with an alternative game plan. And it's a tricky one to figure out exactly what would work. It would definitely have to be more offensive based, which admittedly isn't the Thousand Sons' natural speciality, but needs must in certain situations. However, a full-on assault would most likely play into Perturabo's hands too, so perhaps rather than a concentrated attack, which would allow the Iron Hands to focus their firepower, an assault of several smaller spearheads may be the way to go, each one being a concentrated and strengthened force led by the Thousand Sons' most powerful sorcerers, such as Ahriman, while Magnus perhaps tries to ensnare the attention of his brother, taking out his tactical overview. But what other advantages does Magnus have here? Well, having the god Tzeentch on his side is a big one. The Iron Warriors don't exactly worship any of the Pantheon, so the servants of the Changer of Ways could most likely be the biggest ace in Magnus's sleeve. The Lord of Iron could predict Magnus's likely assault, but the demon kind, however, could be a harder thing to judge, especially if one such as the Fate Weaver came to play. However, this would rely heavily on Magnus keeping his own arrogance in check, allowing another to make the decisive move, which I'm not sure Magnus could do. His arrogance in the days of the Crusade was legendary. Now, it's of galactic spanning proportions. And Perturabo knows this all too well. In fact, if there's any brother out there that truly knows Magnus, it's not the Khan. It's not Sanguinius. It wasn't even the Lupercal himself, but it is Perturabo. The Lord of Iron, while not having the psychic power speciality, truly has the advantage of knowledge. He knows Magnus, and he knows him well. He knows the Thousand Sons, and for all Magnus's brilliance, I'm not sure he has enough within him to do something so truly outside the box that would take Perturabo by surprise. The Iron Warriors don't need to make some charging offensive such as the Emperor's children and most definitely the World Eaters would have done. They have the strength to overwhelm from afar, and this gives them the added advantage of being able to sit back and react to whatever plans Magnus attempts, and then react accordingly. To me, the biggest questions here for the Iron Warriors to answer are firstly, how would they deal with the demon forces on Magnus's side? And secondly, would Perturabo allow himself to be drawn in by Magnus? These are the questions you need to ask yourself when casting your vote. Now, the argument in favour of the Iron Warriors is yes, the Thousand Sons have the advantage of their psychic powers. However, like I said, I don't think that's necessarily as big an ace up Magnus's sleeve as it is in other contests. as the Iron Warriors are more than capable of unleashing such devastation from afar that most of the Thousand Sons would be tied up throwing up shields. And if they wouldn't be, then Magnus would be. Which is why I believe Magnus has to think outside the box. The Iron Warriors' answer to the Demonkin would most likely be the same as their answer to everything: sheer obliterating firepower. They would grind the demons out of existence. But would Perturabo allow himself to be deceived by Magnus? Well, that may just be the key. Magnus has the capability to outsmart anyone. There is no doubt about that. However, I'm not going to lie. There is a part of me that just feels Perturabo has the drop on him here. It's kind of ironic that it's the former friendship and brotherhood that Magnus had with Perturabo that could possibly be his undoing in this fight. For although the Iron Warriors had the tougher road to get here, there is no doubt about that. I think of all the matchups they could have been met with in the final, this one actually suits them the best. So I'm leaning towards giving Perturabo and the Iron Warriors the distinct advantage. But as always, it's not my faults that matter. This one is down to you guys as ever. So who do you have being victorious? Would Magnus outsmart Perturabo? Would the added boon of Tzeentch be too much? Or does this clash of styles fit right into the Iron Warrior's favour? Does the genius of Perturabo give him the victory? Does he know Magnus too well? Make sure to get your vote in, guys, as the winner of this gets the crown of winner of the Traitor Legion War. As usual, you can vote on the Wolf Lord Rho Instagram, or the links to the straw poll will be in the description. As always, huge thank you to all my subscribers. Your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. And if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again tomorrow as we announce the winner.